Our next guest we have tonight is a scholar and rights activist, born on February 23rd, 1868 in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. The first man to earn a PhD from Harvard University and a re-owned spokesperson for African American rights. Joining us for an interview segment I like to call Saturday Night with Dubois.
Wow, this is just wonderful. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for coming. We're so happy to have you here. You're a remarkable man, and I want tonight to be an opportunity to share with more people your wisdom and legacy.
Wow, that's so kind. What kind of questions do you have for me?
You've got an extensive education. We already know you received a PhD from Harvard. Where else have you studied?
The first university I went to was Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. This was in 1885. Up until this point in life, I had not been exposed to racial prejudice. I grew up in a relatively tolerant area and attended school with other white students with ease and had good support and encouragement from my teachers. In Tennessee, it was the complete opposite. I experienced the enforcement of Jim Crow laws, and this is when I started to analyze American racism.
This made you angry, right? How did you want to fight against this injustice?
I was still young then and had more to learn, so this is when I continued my education at Harvard University. I graduated with a PhD in 1896. Then I studied abroad at the University of Berlin, where I had major exposure to so many political perspectives.
What did you do with all the education and new perspectives you gained in your education?
I moved to Philadelphia in 1896 to conduct a systematic investigation of social conditions.
Please go on about that.
I mapped out all the black residents, churches, and businesses in the 7th Ward. All my data and findings I recorded in my first book, The Philadelphia Negro, which I published in 1899.
I think everyone in this room can stand by you on realizing the dangers and prejudice African Americans face in America. And if they don't, every seat in the audience has a copy of your book underneath so they can take that bad boy home and some reading, hopefully opening up their understandings and viewpoints and letting go of all that racist hatred. Racism makes you ugly with all that built up unnecessary anger. Yikes. I've read your book and found it really good. I still have some questions about it, and I'm sure our viewers do too. Could you give us a brief summary about it?
My book, The Philadelphia Negro, was my collected study of the African American population of Philadelphia and how their social and economic problems are because of the broken and prejudiced system of life they have to live in.
What would the readers take away from reading your book?
A big point I would get across to my readers is that the reason why black communities cannot advance in society isn't that of racial inferiority. It is because of racial prejudice. It is almost impossible to see black men hired for high-paying jobs. Low income creates poverty. Poverty increases crime. Linked to the crime is bad stigmas of drug addictions. These lows of the black communities are used as propaganda to continue to keep black people out of high-paying workforces to keep them oppressed and struggling. The reason why the black community has higher death and illness rates is linked again to our poor and hazardous work conditions and the lack of access to health care. The African American is in danger if they continue to be withheld from high education and equal work opportunity. I wanted my book to be thought-provoking. I wanted the facts to start a demand for change.
Who would you recommend this book for, and what do you hope will change as a result of it?
This book was written to inform and warn. This book is to inform the African Americans who do not realize the structure of society that doesn't want them to succeed. It is to lighten them to demand justice. Race matters because of the power society gives it. Take that power away and you are so much closer to equality. I would also recommend this to all the Americans who are blind to the systematic oppression and racism African Americans face and the dangers it has created for a whole race.
Kiki, do you love me? Are you riding? Say you never ever leave from beside me. Cause I want you, and I need you, and I'm down for you always, KB. Do you love me? Are you riding?